Okay, so let's go straight into Lightroom. Like that. So,
Dog in a,
yeah.
in a,
So first thing we're going to look at is for want of a better thing. It's going to scroll down on the right hand side. Let's change. At the moment, you see I've got loads of panels open. I'm just going to change this to solo mode, so I only have one open at a time because it's a lot less confusing. We'll go down here to transform, and what transform does is allow you to straighten up your picture. Basically, you've got a series of controls here, so you can adjust it vertically. So that's tilting it backwards and forwards effectively. Horizontally. You can rotate it around the central point, which is effectively the same thing as when you're cropping. You can grab the thing and do this with it. Yeah, it's the same thing with that rotate command. You can rotate it like that. Aspect allows you to squish it or stretch it, depending on what you want to do with your picture. So they're all, and scale just, I think, yeah, just increases the whole thing. It's effectively zoomed, really. I'm not really sure why you would want to scale rather than crop it, but it's the same sort of thing. And then you can slide it left and right, or up and down. Again, totally convinced you'd ever want to do them too much, but I suppose it depends on what your demands are, I suppose. So if you want to straighten a picture now, so for instance, in this case, we've got a slightly wonky beach hunt. That's not straight there. And this edge here certainly isn't straight, and we know judges like straight. So you can either try and just adjust these to give you what you want. Oh, not that way. Maybe vertical. Vertical that way. No, not doing what I want. Or what you can do is you've got these set of buttons over here on the right. So we can try auto, and what auto will do is we'll look for lines and effectively try and straighten your picture. And there you go.
Very good.
oh, wow.
That's not, to be fair, that's not often that works.
Those auto buttons are very useful, mate.
Yeah. I've not known it work on horizons. It seems to not work as well, doesn't it? Let's see if I've got another one that I think we can try it on. Let's try our boat here.
And that might confuse it.
Yeah. So there's our boat. Let's just rotate it a bit, really knock the horizon right out, and then we'll try auto there, see what it does. Not too bad. Let's just put an overlay. Can I put a grid on? No. The other way you can do it. Go back to our little feather here, and
Yeah, you need to be
being develop mode. Yeah, just flipped out. Yeah, I wonder where history had gone. So if we, before I started messing about with that, go back to here. What we can do is you can do. Do you know the difference between full and auto, Jeff?
With full does verticals and horizontals, I believe.
And perspective, it says, whereas auto do. And to enable balance, level, aspect ratio, they sound like the same thing to me.
No, that one says full level. So whether the other one was aspect ratio as well.
Oh, right. Oh, I see. Oh, actually, so look, that's full doesn't work quite as well as auto does. Yeah,
Yeah.
works a bit better. So I
Mhm.
think it's a full will stretch it as well. So the other way of doing it, so you can also go back to here. We can also just say, I just want to level it up, which is because there's no real horizon, it's not, that makes that much difference. Or we can just straighten up the verticals. That's interesting.
That didn't work.
I'd have thought that had worked the other way round, wouldn't you, on that picture? I would have thought it would have done the verticals perfectly well, and the level I have trouble with. But
Yeah.
we'll
I tend not to use that one.
yeah,
I use the guided.
yeah. So to leading nicely in, Jeff. Well done. So you can rely on the auto modes. They'll work fine. They'll do what you want. But what you can do is you can also guide it and say, so in this picture, for instance, there aren't really that many straight lines. So what you can say is you can say, I want to go in guided. And then at this point, I can say that is my horizon line. And it should, in theory, straighten it out that way. Or
you need to. I think you need to put 2 points down.
Don't you? Yeah. So you do, and that is my vertical, and then it will straighten your picture as best it can based on those 2 lines that I've done. And then when you've got it how you want it, you can check constrain crop, and it will get rid of all the white space around it. So they will do that. Now you can either let's go back to here. You can either go to guided or just pick up this tool here and do it automatically. So I might say I want that one as my vertical. What happens if I do that one as my vertical and that one as my horizontal? Let's see what happens there. Fair enough. Probably pushing it a bit too far, really.
You could do 2 verticals or 2 horizontals.
Yeah. So if you do that as me horizontal, and that as me horizontal, should try and straighten it out. But so that's basically how you get a straight picture. Yeah. And that's all what that transform tool does. That makes sense to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody happy with that? I think yours will be different, Paul.
I don't think he's got that. He's got the grid and the adjustments.
It's in lens corrections.
Yes, they moved it out of lens.
They moved it, but it's got auto and it's got level and vertical and full and then manual.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I hadn't realised. So that's something else I've found.
There you go. Yeah, so that's especially on something like this, where if you wanted to straighten it out like that, normally you'd probably end up in Photoshop doing a transform, but you can sort it out quite easily using Lightroom.
Yeah.
So that's lens transformations.
Brilliant.
What was next on your list? Yes, the one tool every photographer needs. And that is under effects. And that is your post-crop vignette. Now, last week we talked about using the oval tool and shading the areas around it. Similarly, rather than using the oval tool, you can just say, I want to darken the edges of your picture and make the center bright. In fact, let's brighten his little face a bit, and that's a bit better. Brighten his face. Yeah. But you can't see his face, it wasn't fair. So that's under effects now. I think you'll find that's somewhere else on yours, Paul. Can't remember, they moved it about again.
No,
It's still under effects.
Is it under effects?
It is.
They moved, well, something they moved out of effects, I think. Can't remember, anyway.
All right. Looks exactly like yours, mine.
Right, cool. So you've got, if you slide this to the left, it makes the edges dark. If you slide it to the right, it makes the edges white. Please note, this is one of the few times you ever need to slide your slider to the left. So I'm gonna make it completely black so you can kind of see what's going on. So if we move the midpoint, it's basically.
I don't know why they call it the midpoint.
No, it's like the amount, isn't it? Yeah, although they've got amount as the other one. I would have said amount would be darkness, and this is the size, I suppose, really the size of your vignette. So if you go over to the here, it's just right in the edges. Those of you who had a Canon 5D Mark II, you'll remember that. And then right down here is what you want. So it depends on what effect you want. I normally just leave it in the middle, to be honest. I rarely move it out very much. And then you've got the roundness. So that's effectively trying to make it pretty much a square.
Move the midpoint in so you can see it a bit better.
Right, move the midpoint in like that, yeah, and then do that. So there is not quite as round as that. And then feather is the softness of the edge. So that's really hard. And that's really soft. Depends the effect you're getting. Obviously, normally you want quite a feathery soft. What you could do that. Do that. Do that. You get a little photo board around your picture. There you go. So there are a few things you can do that. If you ever see that effect, that's how they've done it with the post-crop vignette. But probably does that reset? Does that reset? No. That's all. There you go. There's a black border as well. You can. So that gives you this border. Normally you'd probably bang it down there, something like that, just to emphasise the subject and stop people's eyes wandering out. So you've got highlights as well. Can't say I've ever adjusted this one. Any idea, Jeff?
Yeah, it's when you got the whites in on the corners, you can adjust them, bring them up and down separately.
Right.
You can see the top left-hand corner was going. I don't know if that was the highlights.
Oh, I see. You can, yeah. So you can decide whether you want to keep them or not, really. Yeah, I see. So that's what highlights does. At the moment, we're using on this highlight priority. So highlight priority is the one that works as far as I understand it. Paint overlay was one that they did in the very first release of Lightroom, and it was quite heavy, I think. Color priority gives a slightly different effect, and again is one that you can play with, but everything I've ever read is to just leave it a highlight priority. When you change, Jeff, or not?
Yeah, sometimes it depends whether there's whites, particularly whites in the image, or if there's whites in the image I want a vignette, then I use the paint overlay.
Right, so that's, yeah. They, yeah. So a slightly subtle effect, depends on what you want, really. I can't say it's something I dig about in too much, to be honest. normally, if I just zero everything, my full amount of vignetting I ever do is move that to about there, and that's it. I probably should look at it more, something to play with. Then you've got grain down here as well. So because we've got nice modern sensors that hardly produce any noise at all, what we need now is to be able to put the grain back in. This allows you to put effectively a film effect on your picture, so it's quite heavy, but just let that load. So that's full on grain, size of golf balls. Let's go golf ball size. So that's if you want a really noisy effect. That's probably roughness as well. Let's go roughness. There you go. That's going to, yeah. That's yeah. Reminds me of my old Fuji.
2 megapixel, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, 1 megapixel black expanded to 12. But yeah, you can put in grain as you feel the need to.
It's useful on uniform surfaces. So, you know, if you've had a bit of texture, they can look a bit shiny and plastic. If you're trying to add a little bit of texture back into them.
Yeah, yeah, and you could. There's not a way to do it on a. There's a universal adjustment, isn't there? You can't do it on a specific area.
No, there's nothing in the brush, nothing in the tools.
So yeah, it's a universal thing, but again, personal taste. You find if you get hold of some presets, a lot of presets will just slap loads of noise on your picture. So if we do something like, will that do it? Great. No.
You want to film, don't you?
I've got some Holga here. That should make it look like a Holga running Kodachrome. Kodachrome looks all right.
I think Zoom's doing a pretty good job of filtering it out.
Yeah, it's difficult to see the noise, but it's more if you want that sort of filmic look, I suppose. So that's the effects panel. Why have I got? Oh, I know why. Yeah. Right. So that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah.
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 So I expect lots of pictures with grain all over them by the end of the week.
I've already got a few in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think grain stylistically these days has been replaced by sticking a texture on something, but
Yeah, it has. But there is there's Facebook groups that really do a lot of this stuff.
yeah.
Very arty. I like it.
Right.
I've found that when you get these moire patterns, sometimes when you do stacking images and that, a bit of grain and it just gets rid of those moire lines.
Yeah, because it randomizes the pattern.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it just 5% noise and it's gone. It's great.
Yeah, it's interesting that Lightroom doesn't have a moire. Is it moire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got it.
Yeah.
You've got it in the tools.
Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it, but
It is
Moire.
moire. Right.
Yeah, I know Capture One used to have a specific slider for getting rid of it, but this, I don't think one in. This is, yeah, I don't think so. So, HSL. So, colour bits new, actually. That's,
Colours, all of them.
yeah, that's all of them, and they've just
Being
changed it so you can, yeah, they've just changed that to being pitched It's not.
If you select
Not a
HSL
tro-
and then select all, then you get RG, then you get hue saturation.
Yeah. So, do we all know what hue saturation and lightness is? Or hue saturation and luminance? One-
Luminance is a bit. I'm a bit shaky on luminance, but
Okay, so if you made your image black and white, the only thing you are seeing is the luminance. Yeah, so
oh, right.
if we do that, yeah, the white values have a high luminance and the black values have a low luminance. So that's the luminance part, yeah, of your. So you've got hue, which is the tone. Saturation is the volume control for that tone, and then luminance is the darkness.
Is the brightness of it.
Yeah, and the three together combine to make your one thing.
Right.
So let's find a different image for something a bit more. Let's go back to my beach or something. With me Martians on the top. Kill the history. See, we did this last week, or week before even maybe. No, it was last week. And I can just completely ignore all that stuff we did and go back because we've got the history up until whenever we did something. That's what I mean by non-destructive editing, is that you can always go back. It's basically a recipe book of stuff. The only trouble is now, if I start doing changes at this point, I will lose everything I've got above that vibrance point. But that, in this case, is what I want to do.
What you can do at that point is make a virtual copy.
Yeah, make another copy of it, a virtual copy of it, and do what you like. So, if I show you all of these, what we can do is we can use hue, saturation, and luminance to tone our image. So, for instance, we might say, I want to increase the orange in this image. Oh, sorry. Maybe not. Let's find a colour that actually reacts. Let's try the green. Yeah,
Yellow's always a good one.
Yeah. For the green, yeah. So we're pushing the green more towards the blue end of the spectrum on the hue colour, or maybe we might want to just make that green. I find quite often that I normally end up pushing the greens down a bit on a lot of my landscapes because green always seems to come out a bit too vivid for me.
A bit velvetish.
Yeah, I think worse than velvet. And then what we also do is, if we want to make, say, the sea a bit bluer, we can take the saturation of the blue up and make the blue, the sea. North Sea's never looked that blue in its life. Or we could take, I don't know, let's take the red colour and see what happens when we change the luminance. See the red hut, beach hut? I've moved the luminance for the red colour in the entire image to darker, or I've made it much brighter. So we can move it either way like that. So that allows us to globally change the toning in our image. Now, one of the big problems with HSL is knowing what colour we're actually trying to adjust, because I always go for greens and it turns to be cyans or it turns to be yellows. What we can do is see these little handles here, these three. So if we want to change the hue of this red beach hut, so we move that, so we pick up that control, click on the colour we want to change, and then as we move it up and down, so we're still holding, you'll see that the sliders change because it's picked up that that's got so much red, so much orange, so much yellow, so much green in it. And then as we slide up and down, we can change the colours. And all I'm doing is sliding you can't see it because it seems to disappear, but the mouse pointer vertically up and down while holding it on. on the button. And when I get to the colour I want, muck brown, that's how I do it. Does that make sense to everybody? That targeting controls.
No, I didn't get that bit.
Right.
So
So this
right.
So you click on that control there.
Yeah.
So we click it, move over. Ooh.
And it sort of gets a couple of arrows on it.
Yeah. So then you find your colour you want to adjust, click and hold, and then push the mouse vertically up to change the colour one way, or push it down to move it the other way.
Gotcha.
Finally, what it's doing is it's adjusting all those sliders over to the right for you.
Yes.
And you thinking about it too much.
But just bear in mind that it does change all of the colours in the picture, not just the picture.
These are global adjustments.
Yeah.
But if you're
Subtle enough.
Yeah. So
that's great for putting sliders right, isn't it? Cool.
yeah, that's perfect for just to be honest, you might as well just move all these sliders right, to be honest.
Looking good. It's looking good. Yeah.
And again, so say the greens, or say this grass is a bit too bright. We can make it brighter by again clicking and pushing upwards. See that grass is yellow and green are moving as I adjust it on that grass, and then move it down to darken it, whichever way. So they give you a quick way of finding the colour palette you're actually looking for. And again, with saturation, click on the green beach hut, slide out, and that is all pure aqua. Look at that, virtually. And drag it down, and we can make that one black and white. So if you had one colour in an image, you could turn it to black and white just by clicking on it like that and dragging the saturation right down. But there are better ways of doing it than that. So that is your HSL panel.
If you click on the colour, I think it groups it into colour with HSL.
Yes, so you
Click the
similar way of looking at it. So
click the far right hand one, Chris.
yeah, so this is, so you can, rather than do it, it's the same thing. It's just doing it the other way. So if our image, we say we've got a problem with the greens, we might want to reduce the saturation in the greens and increase the luminance. It's the same thing, just
it just groups them in colours.
It's groups them in colours, yeah, rather than the other one groups them. Depends. They do exactly the same thing. Depends on the way your brain thinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
All good. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Chris, it's Warren.
Yeah.
On the colour,
Yeah.
you're not using the dropper, are you? Dropper with the HSL, didn't you?
I didn't catch that. What did you say?
Sorry, with the colour, you're not using the dropper and the slide. You used that on the HSL, didn't you?
No, it's the same. It's the same thing. But we haven't got a dropper on these.
Sorry, that's the point I'm making. There's no dropper on colour, but there is a dropper on HSL.
Yeah, it seems to be. Can't say I've ever noticed that before.
But if you want to pick up, I mean, I'm colourblind, so you want to pick up a specific, what you think is a colour for me, then using the dropper is actually quite useful. I noticed though, when you went on to colour, there you go, it's come back again, hasn't it?
Yeah, these are there. Yeah, you can.
Yes. So it's only on HSL.
Yeah, because you're adjusting either the colour, the luminance, or the saturation.
Yeah, I suppose it wouldn't know which one you're adjusting, would it?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely, Jeff. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so doing this allows you, especially if you're colourblind, allows you to find the colours without. But I always find, even though obviously I'm perfect, so I've got perfect colour vision. So even I find that you think you're getting a colour, especially greens and blues and yellows. You think what I think is green, it thinks is yellow or aqua or something else. So they're more useful.
Yeah, well, I tend to work with the all colour, and then I pull the luminance backwards and forwards and see what it affects. Because sometimes just changing the luminance has a better effect than changing the saturation or the hue.
Yeah. And it's there you go. There's your luminance. Little flashing red beacher. So you can see that if you whatever you're going to do to the red is only going to affect that beacher. So do whatever you need, luminance or bang the saturation up. There you go. This is a. There you go. Paul, did you buy that beacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got the saturation and the.
So did you say that you're now just targeting that beach hut?
No.
Or was that just because you chose the correct colour?
I'm targeting red, the red channel.
Red, right.
Yeah. And luckily, the people who painted that beach hut painted it just red. See, if for instance, if I try
orange,
if I try and target this, you'll see that it's moving aqua and blue because there's parts of aqua and parts of blue in there. It's mainly aqua. They look kind of grey to me, but there you go. Oh, it's probably because I've need to reset the saturation. But that's an aqua. And light similarly, I would say this colour of this fascia is orange, but let's see if I slide. Yep, that's pure orange. It's good. So we've got people who go out and use colours to paint their beach huts, which is perfect. So that's the HSL panel. Are we all good with that?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So split toning.
Did you mean to leave black and white out, or is that too simple to even?
Yes, all right. Yeah, that's sorry. Yeah. So what you do? Go back to that. So if I make it black and white, which we now do up here by clicking that button there. I think it was different in your version, Paul, but you can just press the V key anyway for very black and white. Once you go into very black and white, you get this mix, which is the kind of, we're down in the similar world. It's the same thing, but obviously there's no hue, saturation and lightness. But what it is saying, do we want which of the colours? Effectively, this is like sticking a filter on a on the front of your camera. You know, do you want your orange? So I know those were orange in real life, so I've made them white. I know that was red, so I've made the red really dark. We've got a lot of green foliage, so what happens if we slide it here? Push the
what it's doing is, because it's basically colour, it's still working on colour, it's adjusting the luminance of the colour.
Yeah. So that's basically how you get a black and white, a better black and white than the straight one that you do with a V to get black.
Yeah. Again, it's got that nodule on it that you can click and slide, doesn't it?
Yep. So if we take that, we want to make actually, let's make the sky really dark. Drag, click, and drag. That's interesting. Sky's so burnt out it won't go dark, but there you go. Or we can just press Auto and let it work it out for us. Take a leaf out of Dave's book.
That's quite nice, actually. Auto, it's worked, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always worth banging Auto, especially as they get better each release.
Depending on what version of Lightroom you've got, sometimes when you go into black and white, it puts the auto on him automatically.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the other thing to do is once you've gone in black and white, you can re-auto there as well. and adjust these how you need. Make your blacks blacker, whatever. I've got to say, personally, I tend not to fanny about with this lot very much. What I do have is a set of presets with a load of black and white filters, which I can let you have, and you can. I sent this to somebody the other day actually, so you can pick effectively what filter you add on the front of your camera, and I tend to flick through these. A bit of sort of like it's like an advanced auto mode really. I'll say we'll have an aqua filter, and then from there bang a load of clarity on, make the blacks blacker, whatever you want to do. So that's the way I tend to work rather than these.
Yeah, there's another way to do it. If you then go back to your temperature in the basic.
Yep, that would work as well. Just that.
You slide that around.
Yeah.
It's like adding that's like adding the filter onto the front of your camera.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah, you can push all these adjustments again, exposure adjustments. But yeah, so and you can pick a different profile as well. So there's quite a few different ways of fanning about with black and white, to be honest. Like I say, I tend to flick through those filters, pick a filter, and then just do an adjustment in the basics panel for my black and white stuff. But knowing it's there, I mean, also the other thing that tends to be with these things is you watch somebody's video on YouTube and then spend the next 3 months using the same adjustments, and then forget about them. So I've got some images where I processed them. I really like them. Processed them following somebody's YouTube video, and then never did. Next image I had wasn't suitable, and then after that I forgot it. So there's only so much room in your head for this stuff. Split toning. So let's go to
we could turn that one sepia.
Yeah, we could do that one. Let's go for a bit different. So with split toning, you are shifting the colours or adding the colours for either the highlights or the shadows of your image. So let's give you an example of this. Now, if you want to do this, first thing to do is to bang the saturation up a bit on both of them, or at least let's do it on the highlights first so you can see the highlights. So bang the saturation up on the highlights, and you can see that we've instantly changed those highlights to a browner colour, and we can change the colour we use by clicking here to say something like a yellow, give it more of a golden hue, or we can just fanny about with the hue here, or the hue Hefner. So I'm going to go for a yellowy kind of that kind of colour. And then once you've got the saturation up, you can knock it down to make it a little bit more subtle, if you like. If we're doing subtle this week, obviously.
Do we have to?
Paul, I didn't mention your name. I didn't want to bully you.
Understand.
Once or twice is a joke. Oh, come on, it gets a bit. So then the shadow areas, we can also, again, bang the saturation up on the shadow areas and decide what colour we want them. This is where if you see presets in Photoshop which give quite often they give a cross, what do they call it? Oh, I know what I was talking about a second ago. Cross-processed look. They're almost certainly one of these. They've just fanning about with what way you want to do it. And it can be quite you can be quite subtle or outrageous, whatever you like. So I might make the shadows a bit bluer, something like that, just to give the impression of what I'm after, and then maybe just a bit more yellow in the highlights. And then the final adjustment you've got is the balance, which decides where your highlights come in. So if I do that, there's basically no toning at all. Through to as much as possible there. So there's a sort of way of balancing the difference between the shadows and the highlights and where you want your toning to arrive. There's no real rules to this. It's really a question of what you fancy. If you almost everything I see now, landscape photography wise, somebody is doing some split toning on it. Even if it's just to emphasize the colors that were there, it does seem to be the in thing to do now. Yeah. To add a bit of split toning onto your image. I mean, to be fair, in this case, it's not too bad for somebody just talking and sliding sliders about it. It makes you improve a little bit more.
Save it.
Yeah, well, I was going to crop a bit actually. Other than that, it's, it does the job. Yeah. So, everybody happy with split toning?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the key that I learned was to just bang the saturation up and see the effect, then adjust it. Again, it's not something I use a lot myself. I probably should do.
And it is a way to colour monochromes.
Yep, so let's try it with a monochrome, just for grins and laughs and party hats and rotating bow ties. So let's bang the saturation up with that. So again, that's our highlights. We're gonna. Where do we want to go with the highlights? I don't know. Something. Let's try a specific colour. Let's go blue highlights. There we go. And then the shadows. Again, see, I'm moving the hue. Nothing's happening. As soon as I move the saturation, we sort of start to see the effect. So there we go. There's a sort of browny, mucky colour we've got there, the effect between the two.
We'll see.
At this point, the judge would say, well, it's not a proper sepia. I don't like the colour. That's their favourite thing. Well, it wasn't what I was after. I was after a different colour. And again, just adjust the balance. But yeah, that's how you can tone a black and white image to give it various colours. I like the colour filters. I tend to use, I've got a set of, where have they gone? I've got so many presets these days.
So these your presets?
Yeah.
Right.
Toning, yeah. So if I want a specific toning, if I want a sepia, I've got a sepia. Selenium's a favourite of mine. Kind of like selenium, I don't know why. I feel it was probably one of those things that if you actually used in the darkroom, it'd probably kill you. Certainly uranium wouldn't do you any favour. Polysulfide don't sound.
Is that one for Paul, uranium, where it glows?
Yeah, probably. Palladium, that was quite pleasant as well. So you can just use those different tones. Again, that's a set of toning filters to just speed things up. You can adjust it from there. And all they're doing, to do sepia, is it's just moving these split toning over here for you. a lot of people slag off presets and say, oh, you should know how it all works. But actually, I find flicking down a list of presets, you've got an image that you kind of like, but you don't feel like it's good enough, or it's not really working for you, and you're not quite sure why it's not working. If you flick down a list of presets, you can quite often think, really high contrast black and white, or low contrast, or whatever, and then gives you something to go with. So it's like having somebody else process your image for you. It gives you a chance to look at it and see what you would do with it.
I mean, sepia is a hard one to get right.
Yeah. Once you've got it on there, you've now got to convince your printer that it wants to print it like that as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it usually comes out too brown.
Yeah, and the judgments.
What I've only just noticed is if you're on, say, the black and white filter presets, and you've got your black and white panel over on the right open, it shows you where the sliders are to create that look.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is sort of can actually teach you, can't it?
Yeah. This is why I was saying it, because quite often I've looked at things and I thought, oh, that's unusual. What have they done that? Oh, they've split toned it and and done this and done that and done this.
Yeah, and they've done it without touching any of the basic panel.
Yeah, quite often, which is, if
those sliders aren't moving, are they?
Well, yeah, they are. So if I do that, they've moved these colour sliders. Split toning, have they done any of that? Yep.
I couldn't see them moving with the split toning,
no.
but they certainly do with the black and white and the basic.
Yeah, it depends on what's... So the way the presets work is they'll only reset the actual things that are recorded in the preset, or that you've said that you want to keep in the preset. So, so if we, I think probably if we just zero this lot and then pick Kodachrome. It didn't zero presence, but let's try.
It depends how they save the preset.
So it depends on what they've saved in it.
To save as a preset. If they ticked everything, then it will zero everything that that you've adjusted.
So their Kodachrome preset has just adjusted the vibrance and saturation, done nothing to the tone curve, nothing to calibration. Let's reset. Yeah.
Where did you get? Because I use Nick Effects for presets. Where did you get this massive amount of, or was it just sort of accumulated over the years?
Well, there's a load from X equals that are all film simulation ones. All these X ones from X equals.
You've got to pay for these, I take it, Chris? Or?
Yeah.
Which one? I mean,
apparently.
which one do you sort of prefer?
I mean, there's a lot on the Adobe site. You go on the Adobe Lightroom and find a whole load of presets on there.
Yeah, there's a lot about, because they're really. The other thing is, I get on 5-day deal. Once a year, they do a 5-day deal, which is a whole series of videos, lessons, and stuff like that. That you can. It costs about, I think, like about $80, but you get like about $2,000 worth of training and stuff. And
5-day deal is at the website.
Yeah, and then me and a friend taking turns. One buys it every year and then ships the other one the stuff over them. Like we just swap stuff between the two of us. And so, yeah, we pick up all these Nicolesy ones. They're all from that, and all of those are from 5-day deals. Whether they're really worth having, as Jeff said, when you can get a load from the Adobe site anyway. And the new version of Adobe, a new version of Lightroom has a whole. You see all of these. These are all standard Lightroom ones in the new version.
Yes, yeah, I've got that.
So, I mean, they're a pretty good place to start, to be honest. The defaults, curve, cross-process curve. There you go. and they will help you find whatever you want. Really.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jeff, as well.
Yeah, but also I can let you have me black and white ones, that's for sure. And so we've done effects. So the last one we've done is detail, which is basically noise reduction and sharpening. Noise reduction, all I've ever really done, let's just try. Get this back to a. Remember when it looked like that? Right, okay. So, sharpening, I tend not to do that much with Lightroom sharpening, to be honest. I think I've got, I don't know if these are the default settings or are they in a default preset I've got, but that's kind of where I leave mine. And they tend to be on a basis of what the camera, for the camera I've got and what I'm having. So if we bang the sharpening right up, we get some razor sharp, what's that, grass, that's the word I'm looking for. Razor. We get a lot of noise and stuff in this area here. I hope you can see that. So we can increase the radius of the sharpening to make it even crunchier or less. And then the detail part is where we want to apply our, it's the easiest way to explain this, is if you want to emphasize the details or just the large part. So if you see the sharpening is applied all around here, whereas if we bang it down here, it's just, I'll bring it in, sort of about there, it's just on these larger areas. If you can use masking to say, so I'm holding down the Alt key as I move the mask thing, and this shows which areas you are stopping it from applying to. So if I take the masking down, see all this area here has got quite a lot of noise in it now because we've sharpened it. If I slide the masking up here, it's just adjusting it to these specific areas.
No, can you show me that again, Chris?
Yeah, it's quite hard, I think, by the time it gets to you. But so if I take masking down to 0,
I think you've got masking, Paul.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you hold Alt,
yeah,
the darker bits, is that where? Did you say that
the darker
bits are going to be where you don't get the sharpening? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think that it worked for, yeah. And so again, with the detail slider, you can adjust that with the key down and see what effect, what bits you're actually going to sharpen.
Right. Yeah. Got it.
Again, this comes under the area of things that I've spent a day in my mind adjusting it for half a dozen pictures and then saved it as a preset. I think it's not something I.
No, I think that's the default setting because it comes up in mine like that as well.
Does it? Yeah. So there's the default. The only thing I normally do is shove the amount up a little bit. And that depends on the ISO of the camera usually.
Right.
Chris, can you apply sharpening and noise reduction by brush to selected areas? Is that
you can. So if we go back up to the brush tool, you have
for the subject.
Oh yeah, the tools have got moire in them.
Oh yeah, they have. Yeah. So you can add sharpness that way. Yeah, so you've got sharpness, and you can say reduce the noise. That way, so you could do it as a targeted thing as well.
Right.
And as we've now discovered, there is also a moire tool. Sure. And you can defringe as well, which is may or may not improve your life.
If you know what it means.
Well, it takes. I assume it takes off any the chromatic aberration type fringing around the edge of, say. So, for instance, when I would use that is if I shoot a tree against a bright light, you quite often get on the a purple or green or blue fringe around the edge of it.
Well, you could. I mean, there is a tick box in the corrections, isn't there?
There is a lens correction for that, but there is also times when it's not a lens problem and it's just
yes, when you push
the light,
push the adjustments too far.
Yeah, so you can do it in a specific area.
Sorry,
so just going down to what Jeff was saying on lens corrections, you can say I want that amount of defringing all over my picture, or you can just defringe where you've got fringes using the defringe button.
If you hit the profile, there's a tick box.
Yeah, there you go. Remove chromatic aberration, enable profile corrections.
Those profile corrections, it's just what I was going to ask. So have you got all your lenses set into Lightroom, Chris?
No, you won't be able to.
Not with Olympus.
Not with Olympus, because it's built.
It's not even down there. Oh, it's right. It's not even down. I just noticed.
Yeah, because Olympus have it built into the raw file, apparently.
Right.
Adobe pick it up and do it for you automatically.
Right. No, because I think you mentioned when you went to noise or sharpening that it's already been adjusted for your lens. I think you said.
I think, yeah, I don't know what. I think there's a default. It comes with a certain amount of noise reduction.
Right.
Whether I don't know whether it does it on a lens camera basis. I've never looked.
So you haven't put your Olympus and the lenses into any aspects of Lightroom?
No, it should pick that up. It's all in the EXIF information anyway.
Right.
Whether it uses it or not is a question for somebody who's spent their time talking to the Lightroom development team, really.
Yeah.
So the other part of detail, again, was this noise reduction, which again is the similar. I suppose they're two sides of the same coin. If you reduce noise, your image gets.
What I found, sorry, Chris, what I found is that if you hold the Alt key down, it turns off all the sharpening. So therefore, you just see the noise which is generated. So you can't actually take out the noise you put in by sharpening.
Right.
Yeah, it changes it, doesn't it? It says reset sharpening and reset noise reduction.
Yeah. So if I reset sharpening. So if I reset sharpening, so that's the default it's given me there, that 4125. Like I say, whether that's based on camera, or whether that's just the same default everybody gets.
Yeah, mine so.
Yeah. So it's probably the defaults. And they're pretty good defaults, to be honest. So I only ever slide the amount normally. And yeah, so noise reduction, yeah, move them up and down, see what it does.
Move it too far, it all goes plasticky.
Yeah, it's really just, it's a question of if you want noise or if you want super smooth images. Again, these days, I think I'm sure when I import, I've got a profile that's got it set to about there, I think, on noise reduction. And that's all I do. But that's, again, one of those things I did ages ago and saved as a preset and never worry about it anymore. Okay. That all makes sense to everybody?
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh, there's all faces. There's faces on my screen.
Has anyone ever compared Lightroom noise reduction to Topaz? Has anyone ever bothered pixel peeping and checking it against one against t'other? The noise.
If you want to ever Google anything and how good it is compared to something else, go into Google and type Lightroom noise reduction versus, and then you'll see loads of people comparing it to other things. Yeah. So if you ever want to know what the alternative to something is, put versus after it. To be honest, I think with modern kit and the algorithms they've got now, I don't think you need a separate noise reduction at all. Does anybody use one?
No, Lightroom's got a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah, I think Lightroom's got a lot better. And I don't see that much noise on printed images. By the time, I mean, if you've actually got your nose to the screen and you've got it 100%, then you're going to get a load of, you're going to see a load of noise. But when you actually print it, with my Canon 5DS with 50 megapixels, used to see like a lot of noise, a lot of artifacts. When you printed it, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you're looking at it ultra magnified may not make a difference.
I mean, a lot of noise is reduced by over sharpening.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's pushing the sliders too far. Usually, is a problem. Mileage may vary.
Well, like you were saying, Chris, you actually add noise to some images these days, don't you? To make
you can do if you want to give an effect. Joe was successfully producing stuff with patterns, with textures and noises behind it and stuff like that.
It's almost it's like a vignette of noise, isn't it?
You can. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I've been doing it with textures, but now I've seen that. There's something else I can do now.
I mean, it's all.
It just causes areas of confusion that just distracts from evenness across an image.
Yeah.
Depending on the image, is either good or bad, or artistic.
Well, or just. Well, it depends on your vision. Yeah. What do you?
It does. Yes.
You've got to realise your vision, Paul.
I'm doing the best.
I found myself doing a talk once to a club, and I said, and it's whatever helps you realise your vision. And then I just said, did I just say that?
Yep.
Anyhow,
ducks in a row comment from.
Oh well, yeah. No, that's work. At work, I do like to get all my ducks in a row and sing it off the same hymn sheet. We got the wagons in a circle vis-a-vis the ongoing situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
After we run it up the flagpole.
Yeah. And if you go into the office, you just say, "Come for a cerebral swim in my think tank."
Oh God.
I love that one.
You have to be a bit careful who you say that to, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, I better go back to doing my worky thing. Hope you found this useful. I think this is going to be the last one, to be honest. I don't think, like I said before, book, slideshow, print modules. I don't think they're going to liven your life up very much. The print module maybe, but everything else.
Yeah, if I want a quick and dirty print, I'll use Lightroom, but it's just a pain in the arse trying to get the image onto a page.
Yeah, and it's so counterintuitive. It's where they should have gone, right, we've got this standard user interface. Let's throw that away at this point and do something else, because this doesn't make any sense at all. And then you got web as well. No, nobody in their right mind uses Lightroom to create. So I've tried. It's just not working. So that's it. So I hope you found this useful. And
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
And I will see you Thursday.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for doing all this.
Cheers, guys and girls. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.